broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh, man.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the very first Better Call Saul after show here at AfterBuzz TV. Guys, if you haven't done so already, jump onto our YouTube page at youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, where you can find the Better Call Saul after show every week, and also all of our other shows. You can also find us on iTunes and SoundCloud. I bet you're asking who I am in this fabulous Heisenberg hat. Guys, I'm Zach Wilson, and I'll be joining you every week.
You should have just told me to say your name.
Say your name.
I was saving that for a joke for later, but you ruined it, Steven. You ruined it.
Every time.
Guys, we're jumping in here. You can tweet at us as well with the hashtag. What's the hashtag, Josh?
ABTV Saul.
ABTV Saul. And you can tweet at me during the show, during the week, whatever it is, at that Zach Wilson. And I have a fantastic panel tonight. To my left, Stephen Lemieux.
Hey guys, tweet me during the show at that same hashtag. I'm monitoring the chat on YouTube, which, if you didn't know that, you can comment live on YouTube if you go to youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV, and you can tweet at me directly at Stephen Lemieux, StephenLemieux.
I'm Pegah Rad, and you can tweet at me at Pegah Rad, PEGAHRAD. You can see it right here.
And we will have...
And Matt Lieberman will be joining us. He's unfortunately a little sick, so you can tweet at him at Matt Lieberman on Twitter. Send him your well wishes. He will be joining us. I believe he'll be back tomorrow for episode 2 of this 2-night premiere. But we're here to talk about episode 1, rightly titled Uno. Yeah. You're looking. Steven's looking at me with this. What does Uno mean?
I had a joke. I won't tell it though.
That's for the best.
I want to keep this after show fairly good. So I'm not gonna.
So what are you doing?
I'm gonna avoid.
No, guys. Let's jump right into this cold open.
Can we just do original thoughts on what we thought?
Yeah,
immediately after watching the first episode.
Yes.
Because
other than just yelling Tuco, because that was my reaction.
I mean, okay, like. Everyone watching this, I'm sure most people have seen Breaking Bad.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Breaking Bad and you're jumping in on Saul, this may not be the after show for you. We will absolutely be discussing Breaking Bad and any turns and twists that Saul mentions.
And I'm sure we're going to try to avoid big spoilers, but at the same time, guys, just for the record.
Stop and just go watch Breaking Bad first. Right?
But at the same time, if anyone's watching this show and then watch Breaking Bad after season 1 of this show, I want to hear what you guys thought, because I want to hear kind of how it played out.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I loved it. I was looking forward to it, and there's so much hype built around this show, and, it's always bad when it lets you down, but because the way they've been describing the show as similar but different, and just kind of the camera angles, the digital photography is different, things like that, love it.
Oh, it's great. I mean, the difference is, spin-offs are always dangerous. It's risky because you're trying to recapture, especially a show like Breaking Bad, which was such a genie in a bottle type of show. You're risking, you're trying to capture that lightning again. I don't know why I said genie in a bottle. It's lightning in a bottle is the correct phrase.
Come and set me free.
It's lightning in a bottle. And you're trying to recapture that with just a small piece of it. But what they have going for them is that it's not just they took the character and gave some people and said go make this. It's Vince Gilligan, who was the creator of Breaking Bad, showrunner through the entire run of the show, and Peter Gould, who I believe is credited with actually coming up with Saul. He's the creator of Saul. So you couldn't ask for a better team to showrun Better Call Saul.
And just to say, my parents did not watch Breaking Bad, but I told them to watch Better Call Saul, and they said they loved it.
Interesting.
So
that's good to know.
That can show it stands on its feet at this point. One episode in, I'm really happy. What did you think?
It's just not going to have all the shock factors like when we saw Tuco. We're like, oh,
I think
they didn't know. But your parents, like, would they know who Tuco was?
That's an episode
like,
1 thing, though.
Yeah,
Like, they haven't had enough build up to, like, that's what Breaking Bad was so great at, was the slow build to the one scene where
Yeah.
you're just like, this was more of a fan service. I wouldn't say it's the more along that line.
And I think that there's a certain amount of, I don't think that's going to keep happening. We got Mike, who we know is going to be a recurring character on this
Right.
show, but that's because Mike and Saul go hand in hand within Breaking Bad, so he has to be there. I don't think we're going to keep getting like, hey, it's Tuco this week. Hey, look, we ran into Jesse Pinkman when he's just like a junkie. We ran into a young Skylar White. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
The
Yeah,
more they do
maybe.
that, the more they do that, the less mystery there is around the character, because you know they're not going to die, and there's certain certainties that you know about the character.
Right, well, maybe not with characters, but maybe like plot line connections that if you have watched
Yeah.
Breaking Bad, you'd be like, oh.
Well, even that, I think they're actually going to shy away from. I think they're
Yeah.
probably front-loading it here to pay some service to the Breaking Bad fan base
Sure.
that's coming into the show, because they know, they're aware that that's who's watching. The bulk of people that are watching are
Yeah.
Breaking Bad fans. And they want to hook you. They want to bring you in for episode 2, because there's a big fall off between pilot and episode 2. And even though it's a 2-night premiere, some people disappear. But now you've given them some Breaking Bad, so they'll be back, and then they'll fall in love with what this show is, which is not Breaking Bad. Even though it has very similar Breaking Bad elements, they'll fall in love with what's happening here, and then we can move forward.
Well, AMC's pros at smart television, and I'm super excited for the rest of the season. No,
Me too.
let's go ahead and get
Yeah.
into the recap.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on that tangent.
Oh
guys.
no, that was the thing. Is like what is this going to be like compared to Breaking Bad? Is a conversation you have to have if you're talking about
Absolutely.
Better Call Saul. It's inevitable because it's the same world.
Shout out to Jake Watches Stuff in the chat roll, says, anyone else notice Vince Gilligan in the car behind Saul in the parking garage? What? I did not
What?
notice
I did
that,
not
but I
notice
want to
that.
rewatch it now.
Now I need to go back.
Oh my
I
gosh.
missed that. So we opened up like the big surprise, I think, other than Tuco, many big surprises, but the big for me the biggest surprise was opening on Saul Goodman post Breaking
After, yeah.
Bad. Like, we've come into this knowing that this is a prequel, and like there's been acknowledgement by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould that they're going to jump around in time a little bit. But this was like not what you think you're going to get right off the top.
Well, it's great. When I was watching the first scene, I even made them stop the
Yeah,
DVR.
yeah.
I'm like, guys, stop this for a second. While you're watching this scene, just remember that 3-4 years from now, however long this show goes or whenever the show ends, people are going to be starting this. You're going to be starting this binge on Netflix, and this is the first thing you're going to see, and you're going to remember how amazing it was to watch the first episode of this series. That's going to be great.
Rolling the cinnamon.
Yeah, and I was watching the scene, I'm like, wow, they really are advertising Cinnabons right here. But at the
Yeah,
same time, when I saw Nebraska, I was like, why is that so familiar? It's been a while since I've watched Breaking Bad, mind you. Why is that so familiar? And then when he's so jittery around that guy, and it's very reminiscent to the scene in Breaking Bad with Walt and Jesse when he sees the bald guy, and it's a completely different situation than Walt was assuming.
Right.
And I was like, this is post Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
They're opening the first scene
crazy.
of their spinoff with a scene from the future, as they did in Breaking Bad.
For me, it was the moment where his head is down. I mean, because you see the bald spot, and we know that he's not like, that's not his hair pattern, and like,
I do like the mustache.
and the mustache is very becoming of Bob
He
Odenkirk.
does look like he could not live within 500 feet of a middle school, though.
What a sad, boring life he's living, though. Like, works at Cinnabon, goes home, watches, what was that, Renoir on the
The QVC
yeah.
channel.
Yeah, Stephen, you had a really cool fact about Renoir that
Yeah.
was.
hit it.
Oh yeah, so Renoir was a painter, and I was trying to figure out the significance of this because they never throw things in here willy-nilly. And this might be, I don't want to start the season off drawing at strings, but it was talking about when you look at Renoir's life as a painter, he had a relationship and friendship with someone for 10 years, and after that broke off, he lost all of his funding. He lost
Yeah, it was a business partnership. It was
Yeah.
also a friendship.
He lost where he was able to paint like this gigantic property he lived on, where it was his inspiration for painting. He lost all of that. So, but it didn't say that it ruined his career. What it said is that it changed the subject matter and forced him to travel outside of his comfort zone. So it's kind of interesting when you look at Breaking Bad was the 7-year show, and now Saul's partnership with that is done, and it moves on to a new realm of life.
Yeah, well, it's a commentary not just on like his life moving on, but also like as fans, we are moving on. It is now a new subject. We're looking at a new subject here. This is not Breaking Bad. This is the same guy, the same creators, the same painters, if you will, giving us something new to look at.
A new medium.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that new medium. Or before we do, there's still so much cool stuff in that opening.
I know. So it's funny that they say Renoir as well, because it's a very noir style.
Yeah.
It is. Oh my gosh.
But he gets home and he's we had that awesome like the Honey Child playing under that, and he goes home, makes himself a rusty nail, some Doers and Drambuie. But and he digs out the old tapes.
And he's watching commercials of himself.
Yeah, he's watching old Saul Goodman commercials that and you're just flashing back to Better Call Saul, like all the stuff from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But the part of it that really just struck me the most was the brilliance of that, how that was shot, was when you looked at like that straight, dead-on shot of him sitting there, the color reflection in his glasses. And it looked like tears.
It did.
I had to look closer because I thought he was crying, but all the tears were just falling on his glasses. But no, it was the reflections of the TV. But like that subtlety is awesome.
Were the reflections in color?
They were.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's like the color of his life, like the life that he had.
It's very reminiscent of the things where you hear the stories of where are they now? And the people who had these big careers are the one-hit wonders who are at the top, and then they just go away, and then they're just sitting there thinking about old times where things were better, and always craving that, craving where they were, craving being at the top.
I mean, there's everybody looks back and it's like, oh, if I could only recapture that moment in my life. But this is like, he can't even strive for it. He has to stay as mediocre as possible, or he's going to have some big problems in his life. He's effectively in witness protection, an illegal version of witness protection anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
But that's where we jump into our 2002 Saul, also known as James McGill.
James McGill.
Good old Jimmy.
Good old Gil. Anyone else seeing The Simpsons right in their mind with oh, Gil, you're gonna get him this time? Washed up lawyer named Gil.
That's funny.
That's funny.
I hadn't thought about that. He's just like trying to. It's like, please, some pennies for the poor.
I gotta hand it to Vince, Brent, all the writers, honestly, because watching this, the way they evolve the story within the first episode to actually give him a history without you needing his future. Because when I'm watching this, I'm like, God, this washed-up lawyer, he's just he's doing the PD thing. He's really just talking crap about being a public defender. He's trying to get rich quick schemes kind of thing. Like, he seems very skeevy, but then when it does expand upon why he's in that position and why he can't afford anything else, and talking about how he's helping his brother and he's actually trying to pay off the brother's house and things like that, like helping him. Like, it opens up a new side to Saul that you really didn't know about before.
No, we know Saul is the fast-talking, really, just active guy who has all the answers. But, of course, he was not always like that.
Yeah, I loved seeing him in the restroom practicing his talk to the jury. And that's a side of Saul that we've never seen before, where he's kind of intimidated and kind of scared going out into the
Shout out to the slow drama that Vince is so good at writing in there. When they have just everyone in the courtroom waiting. You efficiently have 60 seconds of television being watched by millions of people that's literally just waiting to put you in that same mindset as them before Saul enters for the first time. Because everyone's been waiting years for Better Call Saul to come out, and now they're just waiting that extra 60 seconds longer.
Oh man, please, can we
can you come out here now?
Where's Saul? Where is he? And you're waiting for him to bust in, and then you see this nervous guy, and it's a complete flip. But it also sets up exactly what we're getting on this show.
It's the nervous young Saul before he is Saul Goodman.
Yeah.
It's James McGill.
Yeah.
Okay, that video.
And I love how he's like, nobody got hurt, guys. Like, can we just agree that nobody got hurt?
Well, that's the thing is, yes, we see this nervous guy. We're getting more about like who Jimmy is. I'm struggling. I'm like, okay, he's Jimmy, not Saul, but Jimmy. Who he is this like at heart is this very nervous guy who's not very sure of himself. But when he gets in front of the light, he's on point.
Turns on.
There's the two moments that really sold where he's going, like who he's going to become, are once he gets in the courtroom, and like he has like. You hear his argument. You're like, yeah, even though he doesn't have anything, like he knows it's not going to work. That and when and we'll get deeper into like the story of the Skater twins a little later. But like that moment where he's like telling them like what to do, like right when they're like, you ready? Go with God. Like that moment. That's Saul Goodman.
The moment he dives in is Saul Goodman. He doesn't think about everything that's coming later. It's just right in the moment. The moment is Saul Goodman. But James McGill is the guy who's afraid to dive in.
Yes.
Because he's not certain of himself, as you said. And, you know, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall of the writer's room when they're coming up with what could be on this videotape.
Yeah, you're right. There could have been endless.
There could be several different versions of that scene of crazy stuff. And they went with chopping a guy's head off in a morgue. Well, technically, business is open day and night. So they weren't exactly trespassing now, were they?
Parts of the building are open.
And you know, I've done some dumb things as a kid that, I mean, I'm not proud of, but do you want to ruin their bright futures over something small like cutting a dead guy's head off and putting their penis in his mouth?
Yeah, they didn't just...
I'm so glad that they didn't show that.
They didn't just deface, like, a body. Like, that would have been bad, but, like, okay, vandalism, like, it was a corpse, like, yeah, nobody got hurt.
Hey, man, put your dick in his nickel. I'll only do it if you do it.
Which implies that they both did it.
Yeah.
And it was on video, and the jury had to watch it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we saw there was one guy, the jury guy, like on the far left, the screen left, like he looked away, like he wasn't even looking at a certain point, like because even though all the people in the courtroom were coming around to like lean over, like what's on the video?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll move on. Let's move on from cutting people.
So he's only making $700 a case right now. We find out they went to jail. The three went to jail, of course.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to come back from it.
Yeah.
And I love, sorry, I just cut you off, but I love how Saul's like faking it till he makes it when he gets a call and they want to have an interview, a meeting in his office, and he's like, "It's actually getting painted right now. We'll have to do it somewhere else."
The fumes are a little bit awful. Please, yes.
I was like, that's brilliant. Like.
Yeah, I mean, because he's driving a beat up old jalopy of a car, bright yellow.
Yeah. I like that the car's called. Okay, so this is another cool thing with writing that I literally just realized while you guys were talking. I watched it and I was like, what the hell is an Esteem? But the car had Esteem written on it, as if the car is an Esteem. Well, look at where Saul is in his career, and his self-esteem is so low. So, like, right now, his self-esteem's all beat up, like his car. So I'm sure, like, he'll graduate to a better car. Like, I think it's kind of a cool little nod.
I mean, that's going to be the fun of the show, is seeing, like, how not just his self-esteem grows, but how he grows, like, and because there's a huge gap between this Saul that we know and the Saul that we're going to get. Or the Jimmy. There's very simple. There's a huge gap between Jimmy and Saul.
Yep.
Yes.
And this show is filling in the gap there. But then of course we got the big fan moment as he pulls out of the parking lot, and Mike Ehrmantraut. Yeah, as soon as you hear him, you're like, it's Mike.
Yeah.
And he needs his stickers.
It's so funny.
I'm curious, what do you guys think? Is Mike literally just a ticket agent at this point?
At this point,
do you think he has is he doing like some of this like dirty behind the scenes work while he works day job doing like this ticket thing?
I don't think
yes
so.
And no.
Yet. You think so?
I think yes and no, because the reason I say that is I don't think Mike would be able to go from where he is now to where he is in Breaking Bad that quickly. I feel like he has some history in it, and like maybe if his history is something similar that's gotten him a felony and that's why he's working there because he can't get a job anywhere else. Like, I'd like to see a little bit of Mike's history. I think that would be a really cool thing to see. But as of now, I'm thinking that Mike has a bit of a history behind him already, because he's already like 50 in where we are now with Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, and then that's sort of the problem of doing a very nearby time-wise prequel. It's like, yes, the actors have gotten 2 years older, and you have now set this in the past, in 2002. So you're going to have to just accept it. Like, accept that these are the younger versions. Don't worry about the fact the actors have aged up a little bit. But I think you're right. He probably has some, at least the bare minimum training.
Right.
Jake Watches Stuff says he was a cop. Remember?
Yeah, he was. But okay. I guess my question was how
did he go from being a cop to being
does he go from ticket agent to cop, or was he a cop that ran afoul and is now a ticket agent because that's all he
I'm
can
gonna
do?
go with that one.
Mike seems like the guy from watching. I know we're getting off on a kind of tangent here. Mike seems like the guy from watching Breaking Bad. He's all about his guys. He will go out foot and head for his guys. So I feel like he was a cop that covered for somebody or wouldn't testify for somebody and got let go because of it. So I don't see him being let go for being a dirty cop, but I feel him covering for a friend forced him to be let go and sent off the force.
Yeah, I can totally buy that as the reason, and that I think we will absolutely get to know more about Mike's backstory.
I can't wait.
So I feel like Mike is kind of. I don't want to compare him to characters from Breaking Bad, but it's going to be nice to see. I don't think they're going to get on that footing for another episode or two. I don't know. Do you think they're going to do it in second episode?
No, only because I see where, just based on what we get at the end of this, and I think it's going to take a second episode just to deal with that.
Yeah. Tuco's got some.
I think whatever happens in episode 2 will bring Saul into Mike's life more closely in reaction to it. So I think episode 3 or 4 is where we'll start to see Mike more.
I agree.
I see Mike mentioning that he used to be a cop when Saul pisses him off, and then Saul having a light bulb moment, being like, "Hey, maybe I can use him." Something like that. All right.
Yeah, it makes sense. I want to talk a little bit about Chuck McGill.
Chuck McGill. I loved this scene. This scene, well, not the scene where he goes into the office. That's
just that whole thing, because the base story that we have here is that he gets this check because Chuck is sick. His older brother Chuck McGill is sick, and so he can't work at the law firm that he helped found.
He can't be around electronics.
I think it's whatever the disease is. It is also must have a mental illness thing, because I think it's that there's no disease, at least that I know of, so guys in the chat roll and Twitter and all that, let us know if I'm off base here, but I don't think there's any disease that actually you have to stay away from electricity. I think that part is probably in his head.
So, let's go a bit further and say the whole disease could be in his head.
Possible, but what's his name?
Saul?
No, Howard.
Howard Hamlin?
Howard Hamlin. He seems to think that he could get better. So that to me says that it is a physical illness. Although I guess you're right. It could just be a huge mental breakdown.
Yeah, because he said something like, can he even walk to the bank to cash his check? Can he even get there?
Yeah. Oh, there's absolutely there's absolutely mental illness at work here. The question is if it's connected to some sort of other
physical
cancer. Because the reaction to getting something like cancer can cause you to then fall into a mental breakdown state.
He mentions the doctor's misdiagnosis, which is a big sign of somebody who doesn't agree with the doctor. So it's basically I feel like he diagnosed himself with something and the doctor didn't agree, and he's saying that's a misdiagnosis and he's waiting to get better.
Yeah.
Because no one goes as far as jury-rigged things like that, living in that really nice house and not having a fridge, having any I feel like this is all in his head, and that kind of plays more to Saul in all of his facial recognition when they're having that scene in the house.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to get better, and Saul knows that it doesn't seem like it's a terminal illness because he seems fine, but when he says I'm going to get better, it's kind of that he knows he's not. It's kind of been like this for a while, and Saul's kind of...
And you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense, because if it was a physical illness, then it wouldn't make... the way that Howard and Jimmy were talking in the office about they're looking out for what's best for him. That's what you do when there is somebody who has a mental illness and is legally incapable of caring for themselves.
Yeah, and that's why... they wouldn't take Saul at his word and things like that. That's why they're saying they believe he can get better, is because they don't want to they don't want Saul getting the rights for him. And if they declare it a mental illness and he's not going to get better, then he will lose his right to decide for himself, and Saul will be able to sell out of the company. That's what Howard Hamlin is holding over Saul, because Howard, the shitbag that he is, pardon my French, knows. It feels like he knows that Chuck is not going to get better because it's mental, and that he's not in the right state of mind to be making decisions for himself.
Yeah.
And that's why he keeps saying it. That's why they're sending the checks. That's why they're keeping a paper trail, because they're showing that he's still not out of his state of mind.
Right.
Yeah, if he responds to legal questions or anything like that, then you could argue that he is still perfectly capable of handling himself. But when you're forcing anybody who comes into the house to ground themselves, leave any electronics and metal in the mailbox, and there's something else that's going on upstairs.
So that's the thing, is Chuck is not in his right state of mind. Howard did not help him build the company very well. And Saul knows that, and Saul sees his brother's legacy going into the ground because of this Howard guy. And Chuck's not getting what he should be getting out of this. And then on the plus side, what Chuck says is, if I cash out, they might have to sell the firm, all these people will go under, Howard will go under, everything will go under with the firm just to pay him out. So the firm is going to do everything they can to make, in the eyes of the law, seem that Chuck is in the right state of mind.
See, I don't buy that. I don't buy that that's what's actually going to happen if they have to pay him out. I think that's what Howard, now that we know that Howard's been coming by and giving him these checks, I think that's what Howard told him would happen. The firm would be fine. The firm would continue on. Not 126 people would not lose their jobs, but the firm would lose a lot of money having to cash out a third of what the company's worth. So maybe some people would lose their jobs. The firm would continue, but I think it's a load of BS from Howard.
And then we saw that blonde that he takes the cigarette from, and that was a very intense scene because it showed that they have history. It showed that they're comfortable, at least to some level, with each other. And
I believe that was Kim, right?
Yeah, Chuck mentions her promising career and things like that. And now that I kind of think about it, that's what he was asking her. He was asking her as a partner to vouch that Chuck is not in his right state of mind.
He says, couldn't you just, I can't. That was what we got.
So she's being pressured by them not to rock the boat at all either. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic they've set up away from even the main character of the story.
I guess that could be where it's going. I sort of thought that felt more like a personal thing. It could be playing to that. Did you guys think that there was anything personal about the line? So he walks down, he freaks out on the trash can. Great scene, great performance from Bob Odenkirk. Which I love the little hint of the foreshadowing of the one dent. Yeah, I mean it's like, what made that dent? But Saul made that. Yeah. Jimmy made the dent.
Genghis Cohen says in the chat, electromagnetic hypersensitivity. Totally sort of a thing. I think he's being sarcastic, so I think that's what they called it in the show, maybe. I don't know.
That sounds like something that has been that people have named, but is not a medically recognized decision. I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor by any means. By any means, let's be perfectly honest here.
Dr. Zach Wilson.
So now Chuck doesn't want Jimmy to have his name Jimmy McGill, right?
Yeah.
Is that where we get Saul, or?
Well, they definitely. Before we get to that, because I want to spend a whole time on that. But I want to ask you guys just. So he walks out and he kicks the trash can. He walks out, sits leans up against the wall next to Kim, and the line is just, "Couldn't you just?" And she cuts him off. I can't. To me, that sounds personal. That sounds like there's a personal history there. They're clearly friends, according to Chuck. Do you guys think that there's something going on there, like relationship-wise, or are they really just friends and this is business?
Here, guys, sorry. I just pulled up electromagnetic hypersensitivity on Wikipedia.
You've interrupted this question twice now, Steve.
I feel like there is a pass with them. I mean, he took the cigarette out of her mouth. I wouldn't do that to anybody that I wasn't really close to, or at least have a history with.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What I see here is I see that they were close before Chuck got sick.
Okay.
And then him knowing that Chuck was sick, I feel he's been trying to pull his third out of the company for a while, and that's pulled them apart because she will not testify that Chuck is not in his right state of mind because of her pressure from Howard and the other people.
All right.
And that's
I
torn
buy
them
that.
apart.
I'll take it.
I totally buy that. So you were saying?
The majority of provocation trials to date have found that self-described sufferers of electromagnetic hypersensitivity are unable to distinguish between exposure to real and fake electromagnetic fields.
Interesting.
So it's a placebo kind of thing. It's one of those things that...
It's a mental
And it's not
illness.
recognized as a medical condition.
See? Dr. Wilson. Anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. Can we get the house theme? No, I'm just kidding.
No. But Pegah, to what you were saying, yes, that absolutely is a great moment, and I think this is maybe not the exact moment that Saul has created, but definitely where the thought is put into his head.
Right.
The line was, wouldn't you rather build your own identity?
Boom. Foreshadowing.
Like, it's a messed up thing to do. Like, that like it's not okay that he put his name as the like his represent how he sells himself.
Yeah.
Like,
You can look at that two ways, though, because this is a brother who's a successful lawyer, whose brother went to law school probably because he was a successful lawyer. He's literally following in his footsteps, and now he's opening his own law firm called McGill.
well, it's just James McGill, attorney at law.
Yeah, so all his life he's probably been following in his footsteps. So on some levels, yes, it's really messed up, but on the other level, it is good advice from an older brother, like, isn't it time for you to step into your own identity?
Why not, hey, join my firm and become Hamlin, and McGill?
I have to assume that there was at least a discussion of that at some point, but because there's no way that they're making Jimmy a partner right away, and I think Jimmy probably resented that. It was like, I'm not going to be a not going to be a paralegal at my brother's law firm. I will go into business for myself. Right. But that's the thing. It's like, it's not like he was like McGill at law, like, or something, or like McGill and McGill Law, and it's just him. He was literally just James T. McGill, attorney at law. And so, like, what is, like, as he said, like, that's my name. I was born with it. Like,
it was a very Milton moment. I believe that's my name.
Oh my God!
No, it kind of was, because it's very sad. It's very sad at the same time as, I mean, there is a reasoning behind it to not use that, because it is confusing, and I'm sure that he was using it that way for the benefit of it being confusing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he is. I mean, this is still the guy that we've known. He is a shark. Like, for all his like nervousness and faults at this point in his life, he is a shark.
All right.
Yeah.
But so I want to take a quick moment before we move on and talk about the twins, the skater twins, before we talk at length about Tuco and that whole dilemma. I want to talk to you guys really quick about iTunes and how you can help us make this the best Better Call Saul podcast that it can possibly be. The best thing that you can do, go onto iTunes, hit us with a review, hit us with a 5-star rating, I hope. Let us know what you like about the podcast and what you want to hear more of. Hitting us with a rating does a huge deal of help. It helps us get more people to listen to the podcast. More people can find it. It helps all the podcasts at AfterBuzz get found, and it also helps us raise the water level of the entire network, which is how we get sponsors, and more importantly for you guys, how we get guests. And I'm very excited to say we are already working on some really cool guests, and I can't confirm them yet. I'm hoping to be able to confirm them by our show tomorrow. But we have some really exciting stuff in the works. Some people that would like to come in, but we need to get more. We need you guys to go onto iTunes and hit us with a review.
And go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Take a second right now, if you're watching on YouTube. I see you. Don't even think I don't. Pegah sees you too. Hit that thumbs up button. All right, guys.
And the best part is, if you do give us a give us a review on iTunes, you get to get shouted out on the show, which means that you'll get that I'll be saying your name.
Oh, is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, I still wanted to use it.
That's pretty cool.
Only 34 minutes in.
Yeah.
Well,
but we got about 15 to 20 left, so let's knock this out.
Okay, so let's talk about the twins. First of all,
those scammers.
Yeah, apparently the staff at Breaking Bad have a really love of twin brother or cousin characters.
Yep.
But so we get Cal and Lars, these two skater twins who try to scam Jimmy in like midway through the episode by like diving in front of his car. I mean, what do you guys think of this whole storyline where then he mentors them?
Well, the fact is that if they had said, we're gonna call the cops and get insurance involved, then it would be a better scam than them saying, like, hey, give us $500. That was just a huge tip-off that it was fake. Because if he broke his leg, it would have been so much more than that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's ultimately how he knows it's a scam.
Yeah.
I just loved how he's like, look at my car. Does it look like I'd be able to pay you? It's not even worth $500.
Maybe it's $500 with a $300 hooker inside.
Yeah, and then again, we get that's the Saul Goodman that we know is coming. It's like the confidence of like, I know what you two are up to. You can't scam me like that.
Well, it's also interesting. I love this storyline in that it's not the obvious road that you'd think they'd take. Like, the obvious road you'd think they'd take is Saul would have them get hit by the mom and then try to sue her, that kind of thing like that. But the fact that he's not doing that shows that he's still young. He still doesn't know the things. He still doesn't have this down to a science. So he was going to have them hit her, then use that as leverage for her to sign him on the embezzlement case for $1.6 million from the Treasury.
Oh yeah, well that's a much better game.
Yeah, that's worth a lot more to him.
He had the plan. They just he didn't count on a near identical car coming around the bend, because I believe it was a Ford that they eventually jumped in front of. It was the exact same style car that
had the 4 on the license plate.
The hatchback.
Mercury Sable.
But this was like a hatchback brown Ford instead.
Poop brown.
What are the chances at the exact time? He said 2 minutes. In that 2 minutes, that car came.
I mean, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
I got to shout out real quick because we didn't go over this scene because we don't really have time, but the one where he's trying to get Betsy and her husband to sign the papers.
Oh, yeah.
That camera angle, the way Bob Odenkirk acted out with the facial expressions in that scene when he's reaching for the pen and about to sign it, and then just the moment it's taken away by the wife's hands, like,
yeah,
so brilliant, like well played, well acted.
I mean, we can feel throughout this episode, we can feel Jimmy's pain in Bob Odenkirk's face. Like, if you had any doubt that Bob Odenkirk was a top quality actor before this one episode proves that he has skills that like you never would have thought while watching Mr. Show.
I do have to point out, because we're talking about the twins and things like that, I love the story that we get a little bit of his history of Jim McGill, where he was Slippin' Jimmy.
Yeah.
Where he would go and find the iciest spot where there's the most people and then just fall hard to get as much money as he could so he could be sitting pretty the rest of the year.
I mean, there's a certain amount of like
living the scamming life.
Scams can work.
$6,000 to $8,000 a day, was it? Or
well, that was like free from one incident. Yeah, he would be making that much money.
And these guys are making $630 on their best day. I was like, get out of here,
and they had to take the guy had to get hit by 2 cars. 2 cars. Tuco is who we're gonna find.
Getting to Tuco, they pull the prank. I mean the scam.
They pull the scam and they're wrong.
they pull it wrong. She drives off and they're like skating down the road, hitched to a truck to follow her. They finally get there and she just invites them in. She's like, no
dinero.
Well, she hits them. I mean, based on who we know that she at least knows or may be related to, she's obviously knows like there is nothing good that can come from stopping.
And she knew it was a scam. When they chased her on skateboards, she knew it was a scam.
Well, I don't know that she did. I think that Tuco probably does.
Yeah.
But I think she's just saying like, I didn't mean to. I mean, regardless of whether you think it's a scam, you still have to stop. Like,
yeah, it's kind of illegal.
Like
just a little.
It is a hit and run. Like that woman is guilty of a felony.
People do this though, guys. People actually do this stuff. So it's really great to get a dash cam in your car because it always will keep you away from fault. Just as like advice to everyone listening.
Record everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the world we're living in.
So Saul finds him.
Yeah. So like he tracks him down. I mean, yeah. It's so painful to just think about like getting the wrong car.
Oh my God. So
but yeah, he follows him down. Like I love that they were on the highway, like just following along Back to the Future style.
Yes.
He's like, more money? What do we need him for? Hang
get
up.
rid of him.
Yeah, clearly the way that they like approached her, they weren't like the smartest kids. Just because they, what were they doing? They're just like, yeah, you hit
dinero?
Righteous dinero.
Righteous dinero.
Sorry, I was like trying to find the quote on my sheet. Yeah.
Righteous dinero.
Is that Spanish for money? Mijo.
And then she goes calling for Mijo. And it was at this moment that, Steven, you called it.
I was like, it's got to be Tuco. I was like, tight.
And then they open it, and like, so Tuco opens the door.
And we don't even know at this point. We just see the floral shirt, and I'm like, I'm so right.
Yeah.
But then the gun comes out, and you're like, oh, this isn't gonna end well. When I watched it, there was this moment where I thought like, oh, he's gonna open the door, and it's gonna be this old lady, and she's like serving the skater kids tea. And like what am I supposed to do here? And it's just like a mess. No.
Nope. Mijo's got something else coming for him.
Yeah, a gun in his face. Yep. The thing is, like, this. Should we just go straight into because this is going to be a whole mess of predictions?
Have we finished everything from the episode? I think we kind of have.
We covered. I mean, we're sort of blowing through here. We got a lot to get through in very little time. But yeah, let's move into predictions. We're going to talk more about Tuco, but this is going to be mostly predictions. Oh yes.
I predict somebody's going to call Saul.
Doubtful, since his name's not Saul.
Damn. Always wrong.
But so Tuco, for anyone who doesn't remember, is he was the drug dealer,
regional leader.
Yeah, regional that Walter White eventually kills.
You have to say that.
Well, all right. Again, Breaking Bad spoilers. This is a Breaking Bad like spin-off show.
All right, Tuco's the one that's really crazy and beats people's faces in for like nothing. He's very violent. He's very unpredictable.
He's also the nephew of Hector Salamanca, or Tio,
or Mr. Bell Guy.
Yeah. So I have to think like, are we gonna like my brain instinct is, are we gonna get
Hector?
Salamanca, like a little bit of like
Maybe
prequel Salamanca in this?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's too close to where they are in Breaking Bad that we would get Salamanca not in a wheelchair or anything like that. Plus, he's doing probably.
Well, that doesn't mean that. I don't mean not necessarily in a wheelchair, but just like what I think Tuco is setting up here is that we need a way for Jimmy to wind up in this dirty underground world that we know that he is connected to from his time on Breaking Bad.
What I see it being is this is my prediction. I predict Tuco, as we see in the screens, takes him out to the desert and leaves him in the desert with the skater kids, probably leaves them all in the desert. And then Tuco gets arrested, and the only thing he's got on him is a matchbook, and the number is freaking Saul. So Tuco actually uses Saul.
You think so?
I mean, that's what I can see him, and it being more lucrative taking drug money than it is to take public defender money.
Oh yeah, well I think probably at first like we did see in the preview for next week that he gets brought out into the desert, and what I'm going to talk a little bit about Breaking Bad here, so I apologize if I spoiled anything, but predictions I consider a spoiler.
Well, you didn't spoil anything. You said the wrong person who did whatever did to Tuco, so
whatever. There's a moment in Breaking Bad where Jesse and Walt have like brought Saul into the middle of nowhere with the RV, and they've got him on his knees in front of like a dugout grave, and that like they're threatening, and he freaks out and he's like talking about like, I know the like I'm always a friend of the cartel. He says it in Spanish, but that's what he says. He says, I'm always a friend of the cartel. This seems like Tuco is probably his window in his door into how he becomes in with the cartel.
All right, I like
I'm down with that.
He becomes the lawyer for the cartel, and that's how he gets money, and eventually recreates himself as Saul Goodman.
What do you think?
I like that. I'll go with that too, and also Mike's gonna get involved somehow. I think next episode for sure. Okay.
Yeah, it
2
could
or
be.
3.
It could
End
be.
of
No.
maybe 2.
Is it 13 episode season? Have they confirmed what number of episode it is?
I mean, they have confirmed. They've already like wrapped season 1, and they've already been ordered for a second season.
Wow.
Like the show hadn't even made it to. They hadn't even finished like a few episodes when the AMC made the announcement last year that they were picking it up for season 2.
Love it.
Well, I like the first episode. I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for a premiere. I'm really excited where they're going to take it.
The thing that I will say, the high, and this is a high compliment, I say, this is exactly what Better Call Saul was supposed to be.
Yes.
It was not supposed to be any more, any less. This is exactly what it was supposed to be.
The right amount of everything.
I feel like the creators got to do what they wanted without anyone putting their hands in the bucket.
Yeah.
And that's when good TV is created, or really terrible TV. But pretty much in this case, with Vince Gilligan, Brian Gould, that's
amazing
good TV.
Peter.
It's a great, Peter Gould, great combination for good TV. And I'm expecting to hear some wrap up music here any second now. But
yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the first after show here of Better Call Saul at AfterBuzz TV. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here every week, every episode, but most importantly, tomorrow night for episode 2 at a regular time on Mondays at 8 p.m. right after the East Coast airing.
And if you're watching us live, go ahead and watch the live stream of The Walking Dead after show, because that came back tonight too. Where can we find you, Zach?
Well, you guys can find me at that Zach Wilson. Pegah?
At Pegah Rad on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Stephen Lemieux, STPHENLEMIEUX, or you can see me in a Jack in the Box commercial.
That's true, you can. And a whole bunch of shows other here that Steven and I do are on both on Sleepy Hollow and Helix. You guys can also catch me on Grimm. A whole bunch of others, guys.
Genghis Cohen says 10 episode season. Sorry.
All right, guys, have a good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Better call you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.